So we welcome you all today for such a lovely and special evening with Subah Saraf and Harshvardhan. So as all of you know, they are the co-founders of Satvic Movement. It is a non-profit organization which was started in August 2017. So today's session is actually, it's just interactive session where they will share about their journeys and, their I would say about their ups and downs or their inspirations, their best movements, whatever comes to their heart. So we will listen to that today. And to moderate this session, we have Devan with us, who will assist with the talk today. And we will have also the interactive session with the audience where you can just feel free to ask questions as and when you like. So that is also most welcome. And we will, in the end, have a small treat, which is a Sattvic food treat. So that we will share in the end the details. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I welcome Subha and Harsh. Please give a big hand to them. And I asked, and I request Devan to please start.
Thank you, Shilpa, and welcome once again, Subha and Harsh. Maybe before we begin, I just invite Shalini and Simran to start with a little song.
अच्युतं केशवं कृष्णदामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकीवल्लभं कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं कौन कहते हैं भगवान खाते नहीं बेल शबरी के जैसे खिलाते नहीं अच्युतं केशवं कृष्णदामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकीवल्लभं कौन कहते हैं भगवान सोते नहीं कौन कहते हैं भगवान सोते नहीं माँ यशोदा के जैसे सुलाते नहीं अच्युतं केशवं कृष्णदामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकीवल्लभं कौन कहते हैं भगवान आते नहीं कौन कहते हैं भगवान आते नहीं तुम मीरा के जैसे भुलाते नहीं तुम मीरा के जैसे भुलाते नहीं अच्युतं केशवं कृष्णदामोदरं रामनारायणं जानकीवल्लभम्.
So, for those who didn't understand the Hindi lyrics, it's a song in a sense about connection with the divine. That the divine is always there, but how you connect with it, it does come if you call with the love and devotion of Meera. So, looking forward to this heart-to-heart conversation with Subha and Harsh. We have no script. I think the broad format is that I'll start with just some Q&A to kind of take us through their journey, hearing their journey, and then we'll open up to questions and reflections from anyone. Yeah. So. To begin with, I think since in your journey towards a Sattvic lifestyle, while there are various aspects of Sattvic life, food is a very key part. And I want to start with you sharing your memories of childhood. Like as a child growing up, what were your memories of eating food and what kind of food were you eating growing up?
So, first of all, a heartfelt gratitude to all of you for joining us here today. Honestly, it's after a very long time we are doing something like this. In the last few years after COVID, everything has turned online for us. I think after 3 years, we're doing a session like this. So it's different for us as well. And we hope to do our best in serving whatever purpose we have been sent here to fulfill today. So, yeah. And it's been almost a month now we've been here in Aurobindo, and quite honestly, when we first came here, we thought we'll stay here just for 1 week. We'll see how we feel, and if we feel good, we'll extend our trip. And now it's been a month. So to this beautiful place that is new for us, is just newly found. Just wanted to thank all of you for being a part of the magic that's gone behind creating this. To answer your question, so I think for both of us, our lifestyles, our food, before we ever found out or got to know about Satvic Movement, was the polar opposite of what we practice, what we share with people today. So I can share for myself, my mornings used to begin with a big cup of coffee with bhujia sandwich. Have any of you heard of bhujia? No, bhujia, it's like a namkeen snack. In all the supermarkets, it's there. Stuffed between bread with lots of ketchup. That's what my mom used to give to me to take to school every day. And all sorts of processed foods, standard Indian food, of course, lot of rice, lentils, but quite away from how we are naturally supposed to eat, to be honest. And I think that's because growing up, I never learned that food is something we need to pay attention to. It was just something you eat for pleasure, you eat for taste, and there's nothing more to it. But yeah, that's what I had. Lot of processed, refined foods, and not wholesome, away from what nature gives to us.
So I think I grew up in let's say, a more aware family in terms of food. I wasn't given too much packaged food, but at the same time, being the only son, I would get what I wanted. You keep cribbing till you get what you want, and then your family is like, okay, fine, give it to him. So similarly, as Subha said, didn't pay much attention. Just ate for pleasure, ate for taste, ate for what we wanted at that time. And you keep crying till you get it. And then eventually the family is like, okay, give him what he wants. So I think up until I was 20 years old, I was just eating for taste. Relatively healthier, but still indulging in whatever I felt like eating. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Good to get started. So then would love to hear when did that shift happen, and what was the inspiration, and along with it, how did both of you meet?
So now you can imagine, right? A girl who's growing up on so much processed food, what would happen to her? What do you think? She'd get sick. So I got sick. So by the time I was 13, I was diagnosed with thyroid disorder, and I was extremely overweight. So I remember when I was in school, I used to be the heaviest girl in class, overweight, thyroid. And when I went to the doctors gave pills to eat, medicines to eat. I had the pills and continued with that old lifestyle. After a few years of taking the pills every day, continuing that food and lifestyle, guess what happened? Another disease came in. So after a few years, I developed PCOD as well, and I started losing out hair, a lot of hair. I used to have major hair fall. I had just half the hair left on my head than I do today. Skin problems. And by the time I was 17, I used to be eating 7 pills every day. One for PCOD, one for thyroid, one for hormonal problems, one for acne. And for me, it was really scary because it's like growing up, you've grown up eating medicines. It's like your day starts with medicine, ends with medicine. And I had believed that this is how life is going to be. I have to stay sick my whole life. These diseases will stay with me for the rest of my life. And that's what I was made to believe. Until one day, my father came to me and he said that, I met one master and he's having a camp. This was a camp happening in a small village between Bombay and Pune. And he said, you come with me. The camp is called Be Your Own Doctor. And you can imagine, 17-year-old girl addicted to processed foods, father telling her about some health camp. I told my father, no way I'm coming with you, you go. There's no way. And he was also suffering from diabetes at that time. So he somehow convinced me to come along with him. And as soon as I landed for that workshop, for that course, I started to crib. And I was so angry at my father. I told him that I don't know why you've got me here. I need to go. Please tell them I don't want to stay here one more day, because I was used to starting my day with sandwiches and a big cup of cold coffee. And here they were serving fruits for breakfast. So it was a huge shift. But somehow, I don't know what happened, I stayed in that for that camp. And my first master, his name was Acharya Mohan Gupta. And what he was saying, what he was sharing, the purity in his words really started deeply impacting me. And by the third day, by the fourth day, some change happened in my being. And I told my father that, listen, what he's saying makes sense. Because all my life I've been just popping pills, and every time I go back to the doctors, they give me more pills to pop, which simply means that this is not helping me. It's not really eradicating the disease from the root. It's just drilling it more in. So I said, okay, I'll give this a try. And when I was there, I saw my weight drop. And that's something that had not happened in the past many years. So I thought, okay, leave everything. I'll just do this because I've been trying to lose weight, and this has helped me in 4 days to lose weight. I went back home. I started following the lifestyle, which was essentially about connecting back with nature, with the 5 elements of nature. So starting with the earth element, which is food. So eating food that comes from the earth, plant-based, wholesome foods. Then the water element. So there were some hydrotherapies like tying a wet cloth around your abdomen, head, neck, which helps in blood circulation. Maybe some of you have seen that in our videos. Taking a lot of alkaline foods that have water in them. And then was the fire element, so taking a lot of sunlight. Then was the air element, simply exposing the body, the skin, to air and through pranayam. And lastly was the space element, which is through fasting, it is obtained. So when I sort of started nourishing the body with these 5 elements, when I made these 5 elements my medicine rather than the pills and the tablets, the body started to heal from all of those diseases. So after 3 months, I began to notice I was no longer losing hair. After 4 to 5 months, my menstrual cycles, which I wouldn't get for 6 months on end, started coming every single month. My thyroid, my TSH had come absolutely normal. And my father, who had diabetes since past many years, his diabetes had completely reversed. So for both of us, it was a huge revelation. We were shocked. We thought we have been living in a bubble, in an illusion since so many years. And here we have discovered something which healed us. And it started with healing our health problems, but we began to feel 10 times more energy in our body. Our thoughts began to clear up. We had much more mental clarity, and everything was changing in our lives simply by changing what we are putting on our plates every day, simply starting with that. And then we began to notice there were people coming and asking us, when you undergo a transformation, people come and ask you, what have you done? So people started coming and asking that I also have thyroid, hypothyroid. I also have PCOD. And we began sharing with them. All of this, I had not even met Harsh at this time. So we began sharing with them. And to our surprise, they were also able to experience the same healing that we had experienced. They were able to heal diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, thyroid, PCOD, big health problems in a matter of a few months. So it was not only working on us, this healing modality was working on everyone around us, and that gave us more and more courage. Slowly we thought that something revealed inside that perhaps this is what God has sent me here for, to share this ancient healing wisdom which is dying out today in modern applicable terms, in a language that people can very easily understand. Because I was so young, I didn't understand difficult medical concepts at all. I could only talk in a very simple, easy to understand way. And I just felt at that time that it was my swadharma to share what I had received with others so that they could experience the same benefits that I did, that my family had. So we began doing that, and we realized that when someone came and told us that they have healed a health problem, nothing in the world gave us more happiness than that, more content than that. So we continued doing that work, and I started making videos around that topic because I'm still this young girl who loves videos and, social media. So we started making YouTube videos, and slowly we started conducting workshops. And we used to have workshops starting in Delhi. So we used to have quite a similar setup. And we used to have 8-hour-long workshops. Morning to evening, people used to stay, learn about the science of health, of healing, stay with us, taste the food, experience Satvic food that helped us heal, and go back. And soon we started doing workshops in Mumbai also. And one of these workshops was hosted at a place called Vedri. And guess who was running Vedri? Harsh was running Vedri. So he'll continue the story from here.
So just like Subha, I also had a troubled childhood. Was suffering from sinusitis and skin problems. And the doctors would give steroids, shampoos, inhalers, sprays, and I would take them and I would actually get better. And I was like, wow, thank you, doctor. Like, I can breathe now. But before I knew it, the problem would come back. And I would go back to the doctor and he's saying, okay, I have another medicine, try this. And it worked again. And I was like, wow, thank you. Eventually, I realized this, I have to take new medicines each time. And then this doctor did not have answers. I was like, I need a better doctor. And I was from Calcutta. We all look up to Bombay as this medical, hub of India. The best doctors are in Bombay. We went to Bombay, pay a little extra money, and then they gave a more expensive medicine for my skin and my nose. And I was like, this is going to work. And it actually worked for a bit. Then again, the same routine happened. Then I was taken to London. Fancier doctor, more expensive, charging in pounds. He said, you have to get operated. You need to have a deviated nasal septum. You can't breathe. You need to be surgically operated. Something I was like, I'm not going to get operated. Nothing's wrong with me that I need an operation. It didn't feel right. And the medicines they had given, I was looking at those medicines. I remember the date even now. I was 20 years old. I was like, this is not meant to go in a human body. What it looked like, those capsules, you have to break them apart and drop them in. And I think I started looking online, and somewhere I just heard that milk and milk products could be related to your skin and nose condition, Prior to that, people had told me, Harsh, why don't you stop having milk? And I would look at them like, are you crazy? I have a skin problem. Tell me what to apply on my skin. Why are you telling me what to eat? That's how disconnected I was. And that's how strongly I believed that I needed medicine to get better. That's the conditioning we have been put through for years. That some doctor has some medicine which will fix you. And I was ready to do anything to find that magic doctor. But when I was 20, I was told to get operated in London, and I said, one day before the surgery, and I was like, not feeling right. Let me try. Okay, I'll stop milk products. And up until then, I used to have milk products 3 to 4 times a day. Pretty much the whole day was only milk products. And we had a own cow in farmhouse in Calcutta. So, you get fresh milk and you feel like you eat paneer, ghee, makhan, dahi, everything you can imagine from milk I used to eat. I stopped having milk and milk products. Literally, in a few days, I was breathing better, my skin was clearing up, and I didn't change anything else. Just milk products I cut down on. And that's when I realized there's something here. I didn't need a lab report to tell me I'm getting better. Unlike Subah, who has to see her TSH levels go down, someone who has sinusitis knows when you can breathe, you can breathe. You don't need someone to tell you can breathe. And that, I think, was the starting point in my life, that what we eat is so much more important than finding that right doctor. That shift happened for me. And so I thought, okay, I have a cold. Cold is a relatively small problem, we all have cold here and there. So I started practicing no milk in my food and I was getting better. Then I realized there are other foods which aren't working. So let's say when I would go to a Chinese restaurant, I would feel far worse than I would go to let's say an Indian restaurant. So I was trying to assess what's going on in my body. Then I started realizing there are people who were even suffering from bigger issues like cancer, who were also treating their cancers just by changing their food habits. Then I realized it's not just a simple cold that I have that can get better with food. Even as serious as a cancer, which the best doctors have said nothing can be done with you, to a particular person, and that person changed their food habits and they started getting better. So I was like, there's something more to it than what I have seen in my life. That's what convinced me that I want to explore this more, for which we set up this center called Vedari, which was nothing but a holistic health center where we had doctors who were helping people heal using food. And we had a big space like this where we said we'll do workshops from that space, because otherwise it's all one-on-one. And not everyone needs to learn about it after they have a problem. Some people want to attend general workshops. So we had a space, and Subha was looking for a place in Bombay. And we connected, and she really liked the place. And I said, great, if you want to share your knowledge, what you've learned, it'll only help take this message forward to more people. And I pass it back to you. How was your first workshop?
So I didn't only like the space. I also really liked the person who was running the space. And so we met each other. We hosted a couple of workshops there, but I think only after the first workshop, I fell in love with him, and we got married a couple of months later. And we just thought that our purpose that we are trying to fulfill in our lives is one. So why do it separately? Why not come together and take it together as one force? So ever since, we've been running Satvic Movement together, and it's a beautiful journey. Yeah.
Thank you.
So today it's been, 8-10 years. I haven't taken medicines. I've not applied a medicine. I've not eaten a medicine. I've not sprayed a medicine. And the problems aren't there. So I really feel it's sustainable. It's not something you get benefits for a few months and then you're like, okay, back to medicines. No, it's sustainable. But you have to be willing to keep learning and keep exploring that path. But yeah.
In fact, when I came back home, my master told me, throw away all your medicines. Very, very drastic, but he told me to stop all medicines. We had a medicine cabinet at home. If a home bell used to ring 10 times a day, out of 10 times, 2 times it was someone from the chemist coming and giving medicine for some health problem in the house. And now it's been six years, not a single medicine has entered our home ever since that day, simply because of this lifestyle, living in alignment with nature's laws. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your journey. And you have been exploring, like after this beginning with Mohanji, you also, I believe, went to the US to study and have explored various, forms. So could you just briefly share about which different teachers you met and what, unique things you learned from each of them?
Of course. So what we realized was that this path of study is quite unique. It's not like there exists a degree for it that you can study and you can understand everything about natural healing, or at least I couldn't find anything of that sort. So I feel I sort of had to create my own education path to really learn this. So how I gained this knowledge was first by studying under my master for a year or so directly, attending a lot of his workshops, seeing how he shares the knowledge that he has gained. And I think more than the knowledge, more than the technicality of the knowledge, what I learned from him was his pure intent to serve. I think for me that was the biggest learning from him, that he used to conduct the same session every Sunday, same exact words. And every Sunday he used to have more energy than the session before. So that really inspired me, that how can someone be so dedicated to spreading this knowledge without getting anything back in return? So I learned under him for a year or so, and I read then books of his masters. So Acharya Lakshman Sharma ji had books about, if any of you are interested in natural healing, there's a book called Practical Nature Cure. It's an 800-page Bible of natural healing. And I studied that book, spent hours, I think 3 years of my life, I locked myself in, just studied their books, the whole lineage. And then once I felt like I had understood what the traditional root was of my knowledge, then I wanted to also understand if this is only something happening in our country, or is this also accepted in other places in the world. So there was this one institute I came across called Hippocrates Health Institute, which is based in Florida. It's 2 hours above Miami, and it's a natural cancer healing institute. So people from all around the world come over there to live there for 3 weeks or more and learn how they can reverse third stage destructive diseases naturally. And it's a fully raw institute. So in that whole institute, there's no stove, there's no gas. Everything that is served is completely raw. So I studied there. There was a health educator training happening, and I learned more about the same thing from there. And what I realized in this process was that what I had learned essentially from my masters here in India was at the core very, very similar to what I had learned there in America. And of course, the terminology was different. From the outside, the covering, the packaging was different. But inside, it was the same. The core, the essence of it was the same. That as soon as we start abiding by Mother Nature's laws and turn ourselves back towards her, we can heal anything. And a big part of this lifestyle is the food, right? And we all want tasty food. Even if we're wanting to heal ourselves, we don't want to eat bland food or boring food. We all love food. So one big challenge for us was to make this food really interesting for people to eat. Because what I had eaten was torai sabzi every day with chapatis and just fruits. And after a point of time, when I was sharing this with people, people weren't able to adapt to it. They wanted the taste, they wanted fun, they wanted flavor. So then I wanted to solve this problem. So I went to institutes again. There was an institute called Matthew Kenny Culinary Institute in LA. There was another institute called Living Light Culinary Institute at another place in California. And I learned how to make healing food delicious for people. So using the principles, the Vedic food principles that I had learned here from my master in India, with the decoration and the packaging and the fun and the flavor, from there we combined it together to create many, many dishes, many, many recipes for people, which we have housed in 2 recipe books today, Satvic Food Book 1 and Satvic Food Book 2, which people make recipes out of every day. There's lots of different recipes, but it gives us a lot of joy to be able to do this, to make healing delicious for people, healing food delicious for people. So yeah, that was a little bit about how I studied. But honestly, I feel like we are still students. We are no experts. We are learning every day. We are expanding our knowledge, learning more truths about health and healing every day. And there's so many masters, so many teachers who've come and who've blessed us with this wisdom. And I feel my parents have played a big, big role. It was my father who first told me that it's okay to drop traditional schooling and choose this path. It's okay to not do what the world is telling you to do. And even when the whole world is telling you to go the normal way, complete your 12th standard and then go to college and then get a degree in one, he said it's okay to just pursue what you feel your life's calling is. So I'm very, very blessed to have my parents who allowed me, supported me fully to pursue this. Yeah.
And Harsh, I think you also accompanied to some of these institutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was very recent. In fact, earlier this year, we went to Hippocrates and we made a video as well. If any of you are interested to know more about these places Subha is telling you about, there's a video on the Satvic Movement channel. Because I genuinely sort of enjoy food a lot to say that I'll eat something for health. Like, I want to enjoy it. And when I was at Hippocrates, I was like surprised how they could make raw food tasty. Like, I knew it could be tasty, but to eat it every day for lunch and dinner for 2 weeks, it was really tasty. So they knew how the taste buds work, and you need to have crunch in there. It needs to be soft. It needs to be flavorful. It needs to look nice. So I really enjoyed my time at Hippocrates as well. Yeah.
And Subha, you mentioned about the purity with which your master was serving, and I have myself also felt and heard from many people that the purity with which you create videos. You know, I remember one video where you said that you never share something unless you tried it yourself. So you walk the talk, you first apply, and I think we can feel a certain sincerity, and so you could maybe share a bit with us about this whole process of how you converted this offline workshops into online, and videos, and so much creativity you all bring into it.
Yeah, I definitely feel I can't say a certain thing and do something different. Somewhere when I do that, if I ever, I feel a lot of guilt in my heart that I'm not being honest, I'm not being truthful. So for me, a very strong principle is not to practice what I preach, but only preach what I really practice in my own life. So everything that we share, we deeply try to fully first practice it for months. Only when we see that we've gotten so much benefit out of it, we feel an inclination to share it with others. And about how Satvic Movement came from being an offline to an online platform. So before COVID, we were doing all our workshops physically, like in settings like these. And honestly, it was beautiful. It's so much better to talk to you than to talk to a camera. So we used to have a lot of people coming, understanding, receiving this knowledge. But after COVID came, we had to find new means to communicate the same message. And that's when we started doing workshops online. And first, initially, I was very pessimistic about it. I thought that this is something that needs to be done face to face. People need to experience the food. They need to eat the food physically. But then we realized that there's a lot of ups, there's a lot of pros to people attending and receiving the knowledge at their own places, at their own homes, because that allows them to put it into practice immediately. So we developed some modules, some workshops, which were 21-day long workshops. So today we have about four to five workshops, which are our signature programs. There's one workshop that we newly developed. It's called the Ultimate Health Challenge. And this is very close to my heart because we started working on this. Okay. We started working on this last year, and it took us a whole year to.
To this year, it's still going on.
Yeah, it's still going on. Still working on it. But we've hosted it now twice, but we started working on it in January. And essentially, you learn 7 habits in this program, 7 habits to take you to your ultimate peak health. And these are 7 habits that we feel just sort of, if you do these 7 habits in your life, you need to worry about nothing else. These 7 habits are not just nurturing your physical body, but we truly believe health is not just about your body. We are a combination of our mind and our spirit as well. So unless we nurture all aspects of our being, health is incomplete. At Hippocrates, I met people who were following all the food, were eating all the right foods, raw foods, but they were not able to heal because they had strained relationships in their lives. They were carrying fear. They were carrying unresolved relationships. And that really taught me about holistic health and holistic healing. So in this workshop, it's essentially a program which is taken and combined together all that we have learned in the past 6 years of our experience and combined it into this 121-day experience. And this is something I can say we've never worked as hard on anything in our lives as we have in creating this program. So it's very close to our hearts. And of course, today we have few educators at Satvic Movement who are also conducting workshops. So we have another team member whose name is Radhika, who hosts a beautiful 21-day yoga workshop, which is coming in January. And that's based on the yoga philosophy, asana, plus also the Ashtanga yoga philosophy. And we have a 5 a.m. challenge. So a lot of people were interested in waking up early. And for one of our team members, that's something that was close to his heart. So essentially, Satvic Movement, what it wants to be is a voice for people like us who have a message to share, which is directly helping people lead a better, more conscious life. And Satvic Movement wants to be a platform to sort of put their voices together and bring forth to the world. So yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Now my question is, I have seen this in my life, my family and some people. I mean, these things, to some people, they just, first time they hear it, they connect with it. That, I can get better. But then some people, even after they are being exposed to everything, there is something within them which is resistant and they don't want to change, even when they see the results. And this has happened in my own family. So, and there are people who have been doing this in different ways. There are good doctors also who are, giving this holistic lifestyle. Even Dr. Nandita Shah, I think she's also here. She's one of them. So, but have you found such cases, and do you have any idea how to get them more motivated? Or it's not even motivation, they just seem to have resigned themselves to a life of misery, and they feel that this is normal, and even when you show them, they see the proof, they don't want to change. Is there anything you can share to help with that?
So, if I understand your question correctly, you're asking, there are some people who are just not wanting to change, even after knowing, even after seeing benefits on their bodies. How do you convince them? Is that?
Yeah, they revert back to their own self.
They reverse back to their own self.
They revert back. It happened with my own father. He was following one very good program from a doctor in Pune. And for the first time, he had this weight loss in just 3-4 weeks. But then he said, oh, all my clothes are not fitting me. I'll have to throw them out. And many excuses, the ego makes. And I've seen this happening with other people. And for me, it's just heartbreaking because I see them going through so much suffering in monetary terms and emotional terms. And the solution is there. And I am trying to tell them, but is just very hard for many people. So that is what I'm struggling with.
I would say, first of all, this is true. It happens, and we've also seen it happen a lot of times to people who've healed themselves following the Satvic lifestyle, or let's say they attend a workshop, they get very inspired, motivated, they even make some changes in their lives, but slowly it fizzles out and they return back to their old lifestyles. And this is something we emphasize a lot on, even in our workshops, and that is consistent knowledge. That's the key. Consistent knowledge. You see, the world that we are living in is so opposite of this kind of a way of life, that it is bound to, that association is bound to color us. It is bound to have an impact on us. It's very difficult to live this kind of a lifestyle in the midst of this world, or people who are opposed to it or who have different habits. You need to have very strong conviction. And what we have realized, the only way to really build that up is by constantly giving this knowledge to the mind. So in the Upanishads, there's a beautiful analogy given of the chariot. It's one of my favorite analogies. So there are 5 horses, and those 5 horses are like the 5 senses. So the taste, the tongue, the hearing, the sight, all the 5 senses. And in a chariot, what are the 5 senses controlled by?
The horses.
Yeah, the reins, right? And the reins are held by a charioteer, right? Who's moving the horses, directing the way. Now, the horses run in different directions, right? One horse runs here, one horse runs there, but the charioteer keeps them in control. So our senses are like the horses. Our senses are bound to run in different directions. Our sense of tongue wants those foods, the gulab jamun and the halwa and the biscuit and the bhujia. It wants all of that. But if now the ropes are like our mind, मन, हमारा मन करता है. So our senses are controlled by our man, our mind. And our mind is controlled by our intellect. Intellect is the charioteer. So if the charioteer is awake, he will keep the horses in control. If the intellect is awake, he will keep the senses in absolute control. And the only way to keep the intellect awake is by constantly feeding it with knowledge. Even for us, we are able to follow it so easily today is because we are day in, day out in touch with the knowledge. If we lose touch with the knowledge for even a month, our habits start to slip off. So the mistake people make is they give the knowledge to themselves initially. They get really inspired, but then they think, ab to sab kuch samajh aa gaya, we know everything now, we've learned it all, now we don't have to learn this again. And those habits start to fade away, die out. That's one, and I think this consistent knowledge is one. And the second way I feel that I've experienced is simply being a role model for such people. Instead of telling people, do this, do that, eat this, eat that, that will never change anyone. They will start, eventually start, they will, we're going to push them away if we're always advising people what to do. Instead, when we are a role model for them, we make the changes in our lives first. And when they see they have gotten so much benefit, then they are inspired to follow. So the biggest way we help someone is by bringing the change in our own selves, by implementing rather than forcing others to change. So, yeah.
Also, just to add to that, I feel we all have our own journey. And for some people, 3 months later might be the right time. And for us, maybe today is the right time. So I think giving people their space, letting them know there's a channel, there's a workshop, just keeping them informed and then leaving them to decide. And at the right time, I think it'll happen. Yeah.
Also at that company of similar people instead of outside work, who are following this path, they are in touch with each other, follow the experience. So that would be another way of motivating people to keep it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. There's recently, in fact, we made a short video around it on the power of association. Association is everything for all of us. And there's a beautiful quote by Swami Vivekananda. I don't know if you've heard it. It says, "A drop of water, if it falls from the sky, and if you catch it in your hands, it's pure enough for drinking. If it falls on the ground in a puddle, the same drop of water, its value drops so much you can't even use it for washing your feet. If that drop of rain, the same drop of water, if it falls on a lotus leaf, have you seen water on a lotus leaf? It shines bright like a pearl. And if it falls on an oyster, inside an oyster, what happens? It becomes a pearl, right? So the drop of water is the same, but its value and its worth depends on who it associates with. So same way, our value, our worth, our habits, our lifestyles depend on who we associate with. If we are constantly hanging around people who are smoking or who are eating lifeless food, food that has no life energy, junk, we are bound to become like that. Harsh uses this beautiful phrase, "Sang ka rang charta hi charta hai." Our association is bound to color us. We can't possibly, we think we are knowledgeable, we think we are unaffected, we can stay unaffected, but all of us get colored by our association. So you are very right.
I have a question. It is written, I've studied in the Nature Cure PDF, that it's good to oil yourself and be in the sun. So this is what I did this morning and also for my son. And immediately after that, he has developed fever. So mine is a practical question, that is this appropriate or what was not appropriate about this? And as we speak now here, he is at home in fever, and I thought it would be a good thing to ask you. So I did it myself, I'm fine. I did it for him. He was in the sun for 10, in fact 15 minutes, and he's not well.
Thank you for your question. So, quite honestly, I feel I'm not qualified to answer that. It really depends on all the different factors in your son's life that may be in play at that time. But as a general observation, what I can share is there's something in this path called detox symptoms. Have any of you heard of detox symptoms? Yeah? So when someone starts following this path, I think it happened way too soon with your son, but even with me, after I followed this for about 20 days, initially, this is 6 years ago, I got 104 fever and I was terrified. It had never happened to me before. I usually don't get ill like that. And there was cold, there was cough, and I thought I'm eating all the right foods, I'm doing all the right things, I'm sunbathing, I'm doing the detox, the enemas. How did I get a fever? And when I studied about it, I asked my master, and he explained how we do all of these therapies for the waste, for the toxins inside our body to exit our body, right? Because all of the chronic health problems that we face today are a result of accumulation of toxins in the body. That's one major cause. So when we start following this way of being, the toxins start exiting. And in this modern world, in today's day and age, we view cold, cough, fever as bad. We think these are terrible. This should never happen to us. But guess what? In natural hygiene, in nature cure, we view them as friends, not enemies. It's very opposite of what you've heard, I understand, till now in your lives. But when we have a cold, what happens? There's mucus coming out. When someone gets diarrhea, what happens? Yeah, there's a lot of toxins coming out through the stool channel, right? When someone gets a fever, they're sweating. The temperature of the body is increased so as to remove the bacteria, unwanted bacteria in the body. So in natural hygiene, in nature cure, we don't try to fight these problems. We don't pop a pill and send the mucus back in. We don't pop a pill and send the stool that's trying to exit the body back in. We don't pop a pill and send that sweat that's trying to exit the body through fever back in. We don't do that. We understand that this is nature trying to heal. This is nature trying to throw the toxins out through these detox channels, and we let it happen. Of course, there are therapies to aid the healing and make it happen faster, as less uncomfortably as possible. But we let it happen. And it's not like in the last 6 years I've not had fevers and colds and coughs. I've had all of these, but I've not taken a single medicine for any of these problems. You let it happen. If taking medicine gets rid of it in 4 days, let's say, even when you practice this way of living, it heals in 4 days. The time is the same. But what's the difference? When we take the medicine, it pushes that toxin that's trying to exit the body back in. But when you let it happen, when you allow it to cleanse, you come out healthier after the sickness. I don't know I think this is a bit technical, but detox symptoms are very common. They happen to a lot of people. Some people get afraid and they leave the lifestyle thinking something bad is happening to them. But if we just understand, knowledge, coming back to knowledge is everything. If we have the knowledge, we start celebrating these problems. In our home, when someone gets a fever, we call it a happy disease now. We don't fear it. We say this is sent by the body to cleanse us, not to destroy us. Any more questions?
Yeah. We have about 15 more minutes, and the reason why we didn't take the technical subject in conversation is because it's a mixed audience. There are some who are beginners, so kind of more questions around journey, principles would be. I think that was here there first, and then I'll go. Where did I see a hand? Yeah, Sheet.
I want to I want to ask you two questions. One is on a very lighter note. Is it okay if I ask in Hindi?
हाँ जी बिल्कुल.
हाँ, तो मुझे जस्ट पूछना था आप दोनों से कि कभी कभी जैसे आपने अभी शेयर किया था कि योर डे यूज टू स्टार्ट विद बिग भुजिया सैंडविच, तो कभी 6 साल पहले की शुभा अंदर से बोलती है कि मुझे एक भुजिया सैंडविच खिलाइए, या आई थिंक यू आर फ्रॉम मुंबई राइट?
I've lived in Bombay.
Yeah, so you know the vada pav culture in Mumbai. So actually you have given that answer to that question, but still suppose something like this happens, so how do you cope up with that?
और दूसरा क्वेश्चन आपका?
Yeah, दूसरा question is any plan to open a Satvic healing center where you can treat the patients in a natural way? Sorry.
So, quite honestly, so his question is that do you ever experience those old cravings back after you've been following this way of life? Initially, I did a lot. The first 3 months, a lot. But I think when you start eating, you see, our tongue is a very flexible organ. It adjusts to any taste very easily. So, once you start eating this way, once you start eating living, wholesome, plant-based foods, after a period of time, and when you do it continuously, not adha adhura, not 50-50, when you do it fully, the taste buds change to a certain extent, not 100%, but they really start finding that same taste and pleasure in natural foods. I know this seems like a distant reality right now, but it happens, and we also really believe in never removing but replacing. So this lifestyle is not meant to be a lifestyle of restriction in any way, not at all. It's meant to be a lifestyle of abundance of nature's goodness. Whatever Mother Nature has given to us, there's so many things, so many fruits, so many vegetables, so many nuts, seeds, grains that nature has given us. Making best use of that. So we instead of removing, we replace everything. So if you want to eat pizza, we make pizza at home, but instead of using maida and refined wheat flour, we use whole wheat flour, and we use natural ingredients. And it's honestly, we went to eat pizza outside, I think yesterday, and we didn't like it at all, because what we make at home with wholesome foods, it's so much better, it's so much flavorful than the refined and the processed foods. Second question you can answer.
So regarding your question about a Satvic center, we feel like currently our calling is to share knowledge, not treat people. Even though it seems like we are treating everyone, really all the people you saw treated themselves. We were giving them the knowledge of how to treat yourselves. So today we feel empowered to do that, and we want to give our full time and attention to doing that in the best way. Maybe someday the calling is to set up a center. Today we feel more compelled to set up a school, and an online school is so much more powerful than a physical school. That's what we are creating, a virtual academy.
Hello. Nice to see you. I have quite a practical question, because I was trying, in my understanding what is Sattvic food, to shift on that. So I found it's extremely difficult to eat not salty, not spicy, not oily, just food without taste. How it was shifting for you, and if you give advice? Maybe I was too much on a topic of the yoga and went too much in a too deep Sattvic food. Maybe it should be some kind of steps. Thank you.
So his question is that he tried eating sattvic food and he found it too boring. So what to do? Honestly, I'm not sure what you ate. And also, sometimes we feel like we need a definition for the kind of food, the kind of lifestyle we share with people. Because sattvic food, if you search online or if you listen to people around, it feels like it's meant to be tasteless, saltless, spiceless, boring, bland food. But it's not at all like that. I would say that you try some of the recipes that our team has created. Essentially, it's based on 4 pillars. Does anyone know the 4 pillars of sattvic food?
No animal products, no fat. No, not fat. No oil, I think. Yeah, and oil. Whole food, yes. People are helping me out. What I don't remember. Yeah.
Yes.
More raw food, yeah. Raw food.
Yes. So sattvic food is basically, the word sattvic comes from Bhagavad Gita. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna shares the definition of sattvic food. He's not saying it's meant to be boring or tasteless at all. He says, Ayu sattva bala rogya sukha priti vivardhana rasya snigdha sthira hridya ahara sattvic priya, which simply means food that is full of water, which is full of taste, which is wholesome, is dear to the one in the mode of goodness, dear to the one in the mode of sattva. Now, people have created their own versions of sattvic food and maybe made it bland and boring, but what we have understood, sattvic food has 4 pillars. This is very interesting. The first pillar is living. What do you think living means? It doesn't really mean plant-based.
The one that has life force.
The one that has life force?
Yeah.
Anything else?
Not cookies.
Huh?
No, it's not.
Okay. So living food essentially is food that has life in it, that has prana in it. If you take a sprout, or if you take a fruit and you plant it in the ground, what will happen? A sapling will come out of it, a tree will come out of it. Why? Because it has life energy inside, right? What is your favorite namkeen? Tell me, come on. Samosa, bhujia. If you take bhujia and you put it in the ground, will a sapling come out of it? No? Why? because it doesn't contain that same life force. It's dead. It's a dead food, right? So the first parameter to understand living food is it it creates new life. Another thing, for living food, you will never find TV commercials. That's another way to assess what is living, what is not. So living food basically means nothing that comes from a packet, bottle, tin, can, or from um, stored. It's food that comes straight from nature as it is, containing that life energy. It's as simple as that. The second pillar of Satvic food is wholesome. What does wholesome mean? Not processed. Anyone else? Anyone back there? What do you think? Huh? Natural. Yeah. So if we were to if we were to say it in Hindi, it means puranta. Do you all know puranta? मतलब वो पूरा है, उसमें से कुछ निकाला हुआ नहीं गया, वो जैसा प्रकृति ने दिया वैसा है. So wholesome means unfragmented, unrefined food. So what are the most non-wholesome, most refined foods we eat today? So white sugar, the three whites: white sugar, white flour, and white rice. These are refined foods. But to all of these refined foods, there are wholesome. There are wholesome foods. So instead of sugar, in the Satvic food philosophy, we eat jaggery, we eat dates, we eat figs, we eat raisins. What nature has given. Instead of white rice, we eat red rice, we eat brown rice. Instead of white flour, which is maida, we eat whole flours, millet flour, whole wheat flour. So these are two, remember, living and wholesome. The third parameter is plant-based. So foods that come from the ground, from the earth, from plants, from trees, and not from animals. So I don't think I'll be able to do justice to this topic right now, so I won't go deep into it. But it is simply because there's a lot of abuse involved in many of the animal foods that we get. And Sattvic food is food of ahimsa. It is food that has not caused any pain to any other living being at all. And the last parameter of Sattvic food is water rich. It is food जिसमें रस होता है, which is full of water, which is full of alkalinity. So there are two kinds of foods, water poor and water rich. Any idea what water poor foods are? Examples? Grains, breads, lentils. Huh? Apala? What's that? Huh? Papad. Yeah. And then examples of water-rich foods? Fruits, juices, right? Vegetables. If you put a cucumber in the juicer, what happens? Juice comes out. If you put a chapati in the juicer, what happens? Juice comes out? No juice comes out. Simply because one is alkaline, one is not. And ideally, of course, we also need water-poor foods. But we need much more water-rich foods than we need water-poor foods. And today we do the opposite. We eat majority water-poor foods. We don't eat alkaline, food that has water. So these four principles together, if a food matches these four principles, it's Sattvic food. I know it can seem a bit complicated right now, but essentially it's fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, sprouts, coconuts, lentils, legumes, all of these foods, and you can make it really delicious. Honestly, if you see our food books, we have Sattvic papdi chaat, we have Sattvic momos, we have Sattvic pizzas, we have Sattvic cheesecakes, we have cheesy salads. We don't like to compromise on taste. We feel this food should be the tastiest of all. So if I were to recommend you, I would say maybe you could give those a try, and your perception of Sattvic food may change. Oh, perfect. That's a food book.
So we have
Rabri. Sattvic Rabri also. Yeah, that's
So we have about 3 minutes and 3 hands raised. So maybe a quick rapid fire round. Maybe we ask all 3 questions together and maybe you can combine and answer. Very quick.
I have attended UHC. I want to know at this age of 71, which as a part of my life, medicines are first, then the food. So can we get rid of the medicine at some point?
So, again, I feel I'm not qualified to answer that question. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not, I don't have understanding of what health problem you have. But as a general observation, I can share with you what we have seen, that it depends on two things, whether someone is able to get rid of medicines or not. One is how old the health problem is. So we have seen the older the health problem, the longer it takes to get rid of the medicine. So if someone has a particular problem since last 50 years or 40 years, it can take a long time. It can take up to a year of following this religiously, or maybe even more, to fully heal. And the second thing, it depends on what the age of the person is. It's definitely true that the younger one is, the faster healing happens. But of course, we've also seen miracles in people who have crossed the age of 50, 60 years old, be able to heal themselves. So I would say that the best way to understand or to know the answer to this question is to try it for yourself. And we don't advise, at Satvic Movement, we don't advise anyone to give up their medication, because we are not qualified to do that. We say that you follow these principles while you take your medicines. And slowly, as you keep following the need for medicine, you will wake up one day and your blood pressure will come normal, and you'll say, I don't need so much dose. Let me lower my dose. Let me make it half. Then let me make it 1/4. Then maybe I can try not taking it for a week and see how it feels. But I would definitely advise that involving your medical doctor in this. Satvic Movement, being an online platform, cannot provide that hand holding to one person.
Thanks, both of you. A quick question. Why we speak of recipes? I'm confused. Our grandparents and ancestors haven't grown up on so much of to do with food and the different recipes. Are all the traditional recipes that we've been eating in at our respective homes? What's your take on that? Because somehow I'm so comfortable cooking those at home, than really trying out the new ones. So I want to know, they're not healthy at all, using the spices, all the, like on Diwali, we Gujaratis, so we've got that undiyu, or probably, I just want to know, what's the difference? Do I really need to make the shift to new recipes? Why not the traditional ones?
That's a very good question. So I'll quickly repeat her question, that why are you guys telling us to follow these recipes? Why can't I just eat my old food? Because isn't that healthy? My grandmom and her grandmom has been eating that since so many years. So there are two things. One, these recipes are to help you transition. We don't make these recipes with the intention that you must use these measurements and make these recipes. They are more to give you ideas of what all you can make with wholesome foods. And when you understand how to cook with wholesome natural foods, then you make your own recipes. You convert your traditional food into these principles, and you do what you have been following. And the second thing is, for example, you will see in our recipes, we don't combine many grains together. We try our level best in our recipes. If we are using, let's say, rice, we don't use lentils or dal in the same recipe. Or if you're using wheat, we don't use rice or dal in the same recipe. When people hear about this, they go, oh my God, but our ancestors, our grandmothers have been doing this for so many ages, then why are you saying no to this? For the simple rule that Our ancestors and our grandmothers had a very different lifestyle than we do today. How were they living their lives? You tell me.
Physically very active.
Physically very active. What were they doing for most of the day?
Farm.
A lot of them were in the farm. They were washing their own clothes. They were cleaning their own homes, right? How do we live? Most of us, majority of us, like this, right? Or like this, right? So our lifestyles have become extremely sedentary compared to our ancestors. And if we continue eating their diets and follow our sedentary lifestyles, sometimes we get chronic health problems. So we must adapt our food, make it lighter and easier to digest for our current sedentary lifestyles. And that's what the recipes that our team we have designed, we're trying to do. Make the recipes easily digestible for a sedentary lifestyle. We cannot digest what our ancestors could digest. Not because that food was heavy, but because our lifestyle, our digestive capability has reduced to a large extent.
I watched your video in which I think you shared that you got rid of your glasses. So I also reduced my power quite a bit. But I wanted to ask you, how long did it take? And I did see that you had described a lot of things that we need to do. Did you follow all of them? And yeah, I think that's the question. If you could just share about your journey of healing your eyes.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I'll just quickly repeat the question. There's a video on our channel which talks about how to get rid of our eyeglasses. And her question is, I say in that video that I've reversed my eye problem and how long it took me. So I feel I saw a success in my eyesight when I was able to see everything I needed to see without my glasses. So I don't need to wear my glasses and I can do everything I used to do earlier. I don't think if I get it checked right now that it's perfect, my eyesight. I may still have some power, but it doesn't bother me. I can still do everything and it's not increasing. So for me, that was success. That I don't need to depend on something to see. How long it took me, I didn't measure it, but I feel like the exercises and the sun gazing were two of the most important elements in that entire video that helped me the most. If you don't get the sun, and that's when the Tratak becomes really a good substitute for sun gazing. But the eye exercises and the sun gazing, along with the diet, for me was the most important parts of what I've shared in the video. But all of them, if you do everything, it's going to be even faster.
Well, you don't remember the time.
It's not like I measured it. Okay, today I'm going to start, and okay, how long did it? It's not like I'm doing an experiment. But over time, I just try to make these a part of my life. Like sun gazing just became a part of who I am. And even though I don't have a problem, I still do it today. Because it's not like I'm doing it so I can get a result, but you incorporate it into your lifestyle. But you should you should start seeing results, and that's what will motivate you to keep doing more of it. Yeah. Do you have very high power? No.
It's minus 1.75.
That's
reduced already.
okay. That's very possible to eradicate. For people who have a higher power, it's much more difficult. Because a big part of what helped me is I stopped using the glasses.
Yeah.
And then the power started coming down. But if you have a high power, you can't stop using them, right? Because you can't see. Because you have to keep. So when you stop removing it, it's like, I think Acharya ji says in one of his videos, it's like a crutch. Yeah. You're dependent. If you remove the crutch, your body learns to adapt without the tools.
Yeah, I think with my eyesight, it's even though I have less, as a child I used my phone too much, so I still see a little bit more blurred than other people who would have the same eyesight. So just when I'm driving or I'm intellectually, you guys, when I talk, I use it, but mostly I'm not using it.
Perfect.
So with the sun gazing, so it's recommended that we do it when the sun is rising and when the sun is setting down. But what if you're not in a place where you can see the rising sun? So then you replace it with the Tratak.
But don't do it in the daytime. It can be a bit harsh. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we have.
Inaudible? No. No plans.
Okay.
the fact that the animal nutrition is there, but the fact that I think in the start they comment not to have or any fat, so it's a very it's again going away from the traditional knowledge that we have been taught.
Should we take it up? No. Take time.
Quickly.
So, as I shared, one big aspect of what we follow is ahimsa. So, when we get a packet of milk or when we get a packet of ghee or butter, we see happy cows on a farm, on the label. But behind the scenes, the reality is very different. I myself have visited many gaushalas and seen with my own eyes how cows are treated today. So we think they're happy cows on a farm, being fed nice food, given their space, but the reality is very, 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 very different. The cows are tied to a 3-foot rope, not allowed to move. They are not given open space to run, to be free. They are given injections. They are given artificially impregnated. They are treated with a lot of violence. They are treated as objects, like machines, not as mothers. This is what's happening today. It wasn't the case many years ago. Traditionally, when our ancestors, again it's coming back to that same topic, when they told us to have ghee, the cow was their own. The cow was loved, cared for. Gau was mata. Gau seva was the essence of it. People had their own cows and they saw a mother in the cow, not a machine like the industries see today. So ghee is not wrong, we believe. Milk is not wrong, we believe. What we are getting today in the name of ghee or milk is what we don't feel is compassionate towards those beings. So even today we say that if the first right over the milk or the milk product is of the calf. पहला हक बछड़े पे होता है. अगर कुछ रह जाता है, only then the farmer is allowed to take it. But if someone has their own farm, their own cow, they're serving the cow, loving the cow, they can have the products that the cow gives. But it is almost impossible to find that kind of a farm today where there's compassion being practiced towards cows. And so we say that switch to a plant-based diet. And everything that the human body needs can easily be fulfilled by a plant-based diet. So instead of milk, we have almond milk, coconut milk, different plant-based milks. Instead of butter, we have nut butters. Instead of what else? Instead of cheese, we make cashew cheese. There are substitutes to everything. And today, people around the world, for the same reason, are turning plant-based. Because one reason is the compassion towards the cows, but also because of the health reasons. A lot of people are able to have much better health having a plant-based diet, and also for environmental reasons. It's much more sustainable and much better for the planet to not have animal-based foods and milk products. So all of these reasons combined, I feel, again, in such short time, it's difficult to do justice to this question. It's such a deep topic, and it's difficult to even feel convinced. So I would say that please research more about this. There's videos online. If you want, you could attend Satvic Movement's workshops in which you will learn about this in much more detail. But it's difficult to communicate it in a few minutes, the reality behind dairy today.
Thank you. I think maybe we'll take it offline as an informal because some people might want to leave. So once again, I take this opportunity to thank you both, Subah and Harsh, for all the wonderful work. All the wonderful work that you're doing, and may your tribe grow, may the movement grow bigger and bigger and grow wider. And maybe we just end the session today with a minute of kind of silence and gratitude. Gratitude to all the teachers, all the rishis, all the gurus, everyone around the world who's kind of given us this knowledge. And yeah, sure.
Thank you so much, dear Subha and Harsh, for such a lovely warm sharing. Really can't thank you enough from Bharat Nivas and from all the people who are sitting here today. I mean, they all really, I mean, it's like a wonderful evening for all of us. So thank you so much. I have a small gift for you. So, sorry. This is for both of you from Bharat Nivas. I hope you will cherish
Thank you.
that. And we'll conclude this evening with a food tasting. We have prepared a pumpkin soup, which is as per the recipe book of Satvic recipe book. And there is a okra. It's a raw okra, stuffed okra. We have just tried. Let's see, I mean, it's a limited quantity, but I'm sure we'll be happy to share whatever is available. And do taste it. We have two wonderful people who contributed towards it. One is Sheetal, who's sitting here. Sheetal, please come. I would like to really thank you for your effort. He really prepared liters of, coconut milk today morning. And he came like literally early. Other one is our chef who's outside decorating the, the plates for you. And he is Vishnu, who has worked, and I'm sure he has made a wonderful, tasty, delicious pumpkin soup that you can just relish. So thanks to both of them.
Masi and mom and dad have also prepared Satvic kheer from the Satvic
Yes,
food
of
book,
course,
as
yes.
well as the Satvic khichdi.
Yeah,
So, Masi and mom and dad, they all three of them.
Yes, absolutely, and that is also kept there. So big thanks to, I mean, all three of you. You have like also brought very beautiful, lovely, food from your house. Looks very appetizing. So let's all share that.